Bitcoin hasn't had enough Septembers for you to say every September it has a... No. Bitcoin's only been in existence for 10 to 12 years on any chart. So saying that it has red Septembers means absolutely nothing. If you're looking at the stock market with, 100 years of data, maybe you get more of a statistically significant conclusion in seasonality, right? And we're talking about seasonality. Seasonality is when you observe an effect, you observe a phenomenon, and you tie it to a calendar date or a season, right? Something that can be identified in time, right? In the calendar. You can't make adequate, statistically significant, or really intelligent seasonal conclusions with cryptocurrency because it's too young. Second reason, it's crap. Hello everyone, my name is Ian and let's talk crypto. This is where you subscribe for daily Bitcoin updates and technical analysis. We track the price of Bitcoin as a proxy for the cryptocurrency markets at large. Today is September 2nd, 2023. And today I want to talk about why I'm still bullish on Bitcoin, why the whole idea of September being a bearish one is laughable. So I'm going to talk about those two things. Happy birthday to my mother, happy birthday to my nephew. Let's get into it. Let's start off with Bitcoin on the daily time frame. Okay, so Bitcoin has been in this range for about 2 weeks. As you can see, on the daily time frame, it looks like we're at a support level, right? We're at the bottom of the range. You want to be bullish on support, bearish at resistance. If you want to be bearish, here's when you want to do it. When you break the range, retest it as resistance, then you want to go short. But until then, you're still on support, and so you're more likely to go up than down, at least within the confines of this range. That's on the small time frame. I know a lot of people on crypto Twitter, big accounts, are telling you you want to get bearish because, look at these 3 candles, 1, 2, 3. So the weekly candle looks like crap. And I mean, that's just where the sentiment is. Everybody is annoyed and, kind of frustrated at this price action. You're going sideways and you ended up towards the bottom of a range after 2 weeks. Why not just be bearish, right? It's the popular thing to do. People just want to get, kind of, if you feel bad, other people kind of piling in on that feels good. Why not, right? It's not popular to be bullish. Even though on a higher time frame, if you zoom out, Bitcoin's up about 60% right now from the beginning of the year. Okay? Perspective. Bitcoin's been up despite this ugly price action for the year, right? You're up about 60%, but people will tell you, yeah, I've been bearish all year, and that's, proven that's proven successful. It hasn't actually. If you've been bearish all year on Bitcoin, you're down a lot, okay? Because again, it's up 60%. 60% is not big in terms of crypto gains. It's not a huge deal, but it's also not a dump. It's also not sideways, and it's also not down. Okay. Now, so on the small time frames, you're at the bottom of a range. You're more likely to go up than not, right? Technically speaking. And on the higher time frames, you're definitely on support, right? Again, I've talked about this. You're on a 450-day support, okay? You're on the support of this inverse head and shoulders, right? That was resistance for about 300 or so days. Now you broke that. This is turned support, and now you're on support of this ABC or WXY corrective pattern. So it's really technically gauche, technically just poor technical, it's poor technical It's just bad technical analysis to be bearish on Bitcoin on support, on such a large level of support on the small and large time frames. Now, can we move on the weekend? Okay, that's the question a lot of people are asking, given my analysis of saying, well, we're on support. What are we going to do? Are we going to dump further? Are we going to go sideways further? There's a possibility that we can move on the weekend. I'm going to tell you why that is. If you look at Bitcoin's price action, I have this indicator that I found in the suite of indicators on TradingView. It's called CME Gap Finder, okay? This CME Gap Finder is telling us that there is a CME gap up here between about 26.9 and 27.9. So don't be surprised. And look, this is beautiful. Look at this. This CME gap is almost exactly at the top of the range that we're in. Okay, so I just showed you. Let's draw that in again. Guys, if you're getting value, please like, share, and subscribe. Don't see anybody talking about this stuff in this way. Okay. Let's try to do this with tools because I'm obviously not drawing it properly. So let's take our parallel channel. We're going to draw this range in properly. Okay. Here is the top. Here is the bottom. Okay. Okay. And now you can see what I'm talking about. Look at these CME gaps, okay? So you have two CME gaps, one here, one here. And again, remember, this analysis that I brought to you about the imbalance in the chart is still valid. It's still valid because we still have yet to fill it. Even though we went up with this corrective wave, we retraced it and came back down. So this imbalance has yet to fill. Furthermore, you see CME gaps. What are CME gaps? Chicago Mercantile Exchange gaps. Best way to think about CME gaps is this. And I'm going to talk about this more when I talk about the whole idea of September being bearish and how that is garbage. That's a really poor analysis, especially in crypto. I'm going to say why. So basically, these CME gaps, they form when the US dollar currency index stops trading on Fridays, right? It stops trading on Fridays at about 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then you have this weekend, right? And the weekend, the DXY doesn't trade, but Bitcoin's 24/7, crypto's 24/7. It keeps trading. You create a CME gap when Bitcoin starts moving on the weekends despite the DXY not moving. And why are we creating these gaps? It's because what I always say, Bitcoin moves with the dollar. Everything moves with the dollar, whether you know it or not. Okay? The dollar is the underlying asset. You use dollars to buy Bitcoin. You use dollars to buy most crypto. Most people, 60% of all trade in the US and in the whole world is done using the US dollar. Sorry, 60% of trade in the whole world is done using the US dollar. More than 60% in the US for obvious reasons. So, if the dollar's not trading, it's hard for Bitcoin to have a sustainable move. And when the dollar stops trading and Bitcoin does something, it usually comes back to fill these gaps because there was no liquidity to really support the move. That's the best, that's the quickest way I can explain it. I know that wasn't the best explanation, but just so you know, these are CME gaps, and usually they're filled once the dollar starts trading again, and we all know the dollar starts trading again in pre-trading on Sunday Eastern Standard Time at around 5 to 7 p.m. Okay? So, these CME gaps are up here at the top of our range. What did I just say? The more likely move is Bitcoin headed to the top of the range because it's right now on support at the bottom of the range. And the CME gaps that you see, the two CME gaps on your chart on the daily time or 4-hourly time frame, right, that were formed, one in March, one in May, and June, are up here at the top of the range. So it's more likely than not that Bitcoin make a move to the top of the range between 27.2 and 27.9, 28K, let's say, this weekend to finally fill these CME gaps. And that move should then not retrace upon itself, because it's just filling the gaps. So it doesn't necessarily need to come down as an invalid move on the weekend, not supported by the liquidity of the US dollar, right? Because it's filling the CME gaps. I hope that makes sense. It's not too technical. If you're lost, just, do more research on CME gaps. You could probably get a better explanation elsewhere, and you'll probably have a better understanding than I do. I just use it as a trader, knowing where we could possibly move, despite our having weekend price action. Okay, now let's get into the topic of Bitcoin having bearish Septembers. Two principal reasons why that is terrible analysis. It is so... people just parrot things, and this is why you need to do your own research. I don't care how large the account is on Twitter. If it's shitty analysis, it's shitty analysis. This is why it's shitty analysis. Reason number one: Bitcoin doesn't have a great enough or a large enough end value. What does that mean? It means the sample size. When you're making analysis and making conclusions on the analysis, and you're saying X thing happens when this happens, you should have a large enough sample size where that data is statistically significant. Bitcoin hasn't had enough Septembers for you to say every September it has a... No. Bitcoin's only been in existence for 10 to 12 years on any chart. So saying that it has red Septembers means absolutely nothing. If you're looking at the stock market with, 100 years of data, maybe you get more of a statistically significant conclusion in seasonality, right? And we're talking about seasonality. Seasonality is when you observe an effect, you observe a phenomenon, and you tie it to a calendar date or a season, right? Something that can be identified in time, right? In the calendar. You can't make adequate, statistically significant, or really intelligent seasonal conclusions with cryptocurrency because it's too young. Second reason, it's crap. It's because Bitcoin and crypto does not operate on a work schedule like the traditional market. Bitcoin and crypto is a 24/7 market. It doesn't stop trading at the close of business on Fridays. It doesn't stop trading on holidays. So the idea that it operates seasonally is that much weaker. Now, for my seasonal friends, my friends who ascribe to the seasonality hypothesis in crypto, where you can say, hey, Dean, you have a point, but, look at this or that, is by looking at the idea that Bitcoin is still tied inextricably to the US dollar. And I just said that. Bitcoin operates inversely from the US dollar. You can prove it to yourselves. Look at a chart of Bitcoin for its entire existence against a chart from of the US dollar in that same period of time, and you will see an inverse correlation. So if the dollar happens to have seasonal effects, then Bitcoin will also have a similar seasonal effect. That's the furthest you can go with seasonality in crypto. But again, guys, don't just listen to what people say on the internet, whether it's on crypto Twitter, whether it's on TikTok. Do your own research and use your own brains. Okay? Seasonality. Bitcoin's going to have a red September. Well, it doesn't look like it in the charts, right? if it's going to have a red September, then it's going to be against all odds, given what you're seeing in the US dollar currency index that is currently at resistance, and it's been playing at resistance for however long now, since the mid-August, right? If Bitcoin's going to have a red September, then either the US dollar currency index is going to pop, or it's going to continue to go sideways and up, causing Bitcoin to have a potentially red September. In addition, just Bitcoin's chart itself would have to break support, this 450-day support, to have a red September. Use your own judgment. Do your own research. Doesn't necessarily mean like don't hold me liable if I give you advice and it goes wrong, so don't sue me. No, it means don't just take in information without thinking. Does it make any sense, right? The red September seasonality thing is crap, and a lot of people may use it in traditional finance and lazily slap that on to cryptocurrency markets, to our digital asset markets. So yeah, again, on the small time frame, we look like we're at support. We may go up because we're on support on the small time frame. On the large time frame, we're also at support. So two things going for a move up. Furthermore, you have CME gaps towards the top of this range here, which are likely to give you moves up, and even on the weekends, and a move up that should not necessarily need to be retraced upon, because you're filling in CME gaps which tie into your dollar, your DXY, and your basically the fuel that runs the cryptocurrency market and all markets of the world. That's my analysis. I hope that was helpful. Hope that was useful, guys. Like, share, and subscribe if you got value. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope we do get that move to the upside, and I will see you in the next video.